Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make white cupcakes, and this is what they look like. So what you have is a sweet vanilla flavored cupcake topped with a buttery confectioner frosting. And you can either spread just with a knife a little bit of frosting on the cupcakes, or you can pipe it. And then of course if you want to garnish them with some sprinkles or candy or anything like that. So we're going to start by preheating our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And you will need a 12-cup muffin pan like this. Now you can either just butter the muffin cups, or you can use these, I'm using these standalone kind of pretty cupcake liners, or you could just use the plain white ones, whatever you like. And then I'm going to use a stand mixer, and if you have one, use the paddle attachment, or you could just use a hand mixer for this. And we're going to start with a half a cup, that's 113 grams of butter. You can use either salted or unsalted, whichever you like. And I'm just going to beat this on medium speed just until it's nice and creamy and smooth. Okay, and as always when you're making a batter, just scrape the bottom and the sides of the bowl as much as you need to. You want to make sure all your ingredients are mixed together. And so next I'm going to add 1 cup, that's 200 grams of granulated white sugar. And then I'm going to beat this on high speed until the mixture is really light and fluffy, so probably about 3 minutes. Okay, so this is what we're looking for here. We're trying to get some air in this mixture, and that's what's going to help give our cupcake that really nice light and fluffy texture. Okay, so next, scrape this off here. So next what we're going to add is 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract for some flavoring. And we're also going to add 2 large eggs. Have your eggs at room temperature. And I'm going to add 1 egg, mix that in, and then add the second egg. Okay, that looks good. Now, if you do find your batter is slightly curdled, I mean, you can mix it a little more, but really don't worry, because once we add our flour, it'll smooth it right out. Okay. So for our dry ingredients, in a separate bowl, I have 1.5 cups, which is 180 grams of cake flour. Now, cake flour is a little different than all-purpose flour. It's a low gluten flour, and what that's going to do is give our cupcakes a really nice soft and tender crumb. And I am going to sift our flour, because that even helps too with making a nice light cupcake, along with 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, if you use salted butter, then I would probably just leave that salt out. I'm just using, I mean, you can buy those flour sifters, like an actual sifter. I'm just using a strainer I have, and it does the same thing. One less piece of equipment. Okay. And then, so what I'm going to add is the flour in 3 stages to our batter, and I'm going to alternate that with I have a half a cup, which is 120 milliliters of milk, and have that at room temperature. Now you can use like a full fat milk, and that will give you a richer tasting cupcake. I'm actually using a reduced fat at 2%, so either one. So I'll just add about a third of our flour mixture. And have your mixer on low speed because we don't want that flour coming up in our face. And then I'm going to add about half of our milk. And a little more of our flour. And the rest of our milk. Let's give this a quick scrape. And the rest of our flour. Okay. Now make sure you don't over mix. You just want to mix it only long enough so everything is mixed in. Over mixing can cause your cupcakes or any cake really to be a little tough, so we don't want that. So what I often do is there's still a little flour, I just do that with my spatula, mix it in by hand. Okay, so now we want to evenly fill our muffin cups. So you can use, like I like to use a little, like an ice cream scoop, makes it easy, or 2 spoons is every bit as good. The important thing is try to fill them all with the same amount of batter because we want them to cook in the same amount of time. Okay, that looks good. So now, we'll put them in the oven. Now, as always, everybody's oven is a little different. Now, if you're using these kind of liners, these little paper liners, I find it takes about 18 to 20 minutes. These ones I'm using because they're a little deeper and not as wide. They take between 20 and 22 minutes. But what you're looking for is when you put a toothpick into the center, it will come out clean. Okay, our cupcakes are now done. Now, it's really important when you bake cupcakes that you don't overbake them because then, then there's a problem of them being quite dry tasting. And unfortunately, while the toothpick test will tell you when they're underbaked, a dry toothpick can also tell you, doesn't indicate that they may be overbaked. So always check your cupcakes like a few minutes before the stated baking time because everybody's oven is a little different. So now, what we're going to do is let these cool completely, and when we come back, we will make our frosting. So now our cupcakes have completely cooled, so we're ready to make our confectioner frosting. If you are using a stand mixer, use your paddle attachment here, or again, you could use a hand mixer for this. So first you need a half a cup, 113 grams of butter, either salted or unsalted, whichever you like. And then I'm just going to beat this until it's nice and smooth. Okay. And then we need, because we're using really just a combination of butter and sugar for this. So you will need 2 cups, that's 230 grams of confectioner sugar. You may know that it is either powdered or icing sugar. And sift your sugar to get rid of any lumps, because it tends to be quite lumpy. And then we need some flavoring, so I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And then I'm going to start the mixer on low speed. It's a lot of sugar, and we don't want that coming up in our face. And then I'm going to beat this. After it's all mixed in, I'm going to put the mixer on high and beat it for probably maybe 3 to maybe even more. We want this to get really nice and light and fluffy. So, after about 3 minutes, this is what it looks like. You can see it's got lighter in color and it's quite fluffy, but it's quite thick, as you can see. So, we want to pipe this. So I'm going to thin it out with a little, you can use either milk or cream, and just start with maybe, I'm going to start with maybe 1/2 tablespoon. And then I'm going to beat that in, and then I'll check it again to see how it is. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll just give it a... Yes, see, it's kind of light, fluffy. You know, just keep adding. You may have to add 1-2 tablespoons of either milk or cream to get it thin enough. And of course, if you thin it out too much, then you can always add a little more sugar to thicken it up again. So don't worry about that. So now, if you want, you don't have to pipe. I mean, normally if, you know, I'm doing it for the kids, I don't bother. I just take either a knife or I got a spatula here, and I just take a little frosting and spread it on the top of the cupcake, because actually I find that just a little, I don't like a lot of frosting, I like mostly cake. So most of the time for the family, I just do it this way. Just like so. And then if you want, of course, sprinkles. Like so. I think that's really pretty. And if you wanted to put some candy, I mean, you could put a candy in the center. But, you know, with now all the cupcake shops, it seems like most people like to pipe their frosting. So I'm just using, for this one, I mean, you use a star, either an open or closed star tip. I'm just using a plain round one for this one, but if you use a star tip, it's done in the same way. And, you know, I'm using one of these disposable pastry bags. You just cut off the end. You could use, also just use like a freezer bag and just cut off the end if you want. And you just put your frosting in. And then what you want to do is just press all the frosting down until it comes through, and try to get all the air out of your bag. So that way you'll have a nice smooth pipe rather than get air pockets. So I'm just going to pipe it, press till it comes down like so. And then what I like to do is just twist the bag and then hold it in your one hand and use your other hand as a guide. And then just even pressure, just pipe like so. I mean, this is your first time, the thing is, if it doesn't look good, you can always just scrape off the frosting and do another one. And then, of course, like these little candies, put on the top. And then, again, we're gonna have some sprinkles. Kids love to do this, although they tend to get carried away with those sprinkles, I find. But isn't that cute? I mean, either way, kind of. And then let's try one. If you use these freestanding, it's a little more work to get but they look so cute. And sometimes I even just take them out of the liners and then you have a nice looking cake. So I'm going to just cut off a little piece with the frosting. Oh, you can tell it's really nice and soft, and look at that, very fluffy, moist. It's delicious. You got a nice vanilla flavor both with the cake and the frosting. Using that cake flour really makes a tender cupcake, and it's very soft, fluffy, and then of course the frosting, buttery sweet. Very nice. I'm sure your family, friends will love them. So enjoy, and until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.